Do 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 do. Hey everyone, how are we doing today? So today we are going to make a background for our Fiasco game that's coming up on, I guess it's going to be Wednesday. So I'm kind of excited about that. We have a pretty stellar crew. I'll let you know who that is later. But just reaching out to people. So the set we are playing, however, that I can let you know. We're playing, it's called The Museum. And this is based on something that the Double Clicks did once upon a time. So it's kind of a fan-made set. And I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to provide a lot of fun and stuff like that. So for these, I tend to work a lot in Photoshop. Reason being is that it's a digital picture. It's only, the standard size 1280 by, 1080 or 1240, 1080. Standard HD TV size. I'm not making something that needs to scale. So, I don't need a vector program. So for that, we're going to use the just basic Photoshop and stuff like that. Now, I haven't really given this a ton of thought. I kind of gave some preliminary thoughts, and I have some pictures from around actually Philadelphia here that I thought might be a good place to start, because we have the Philadelphia Art Museum, the Rocky Steps and all that. So I kind of thought maybe that would be a good background and thumbnail image, but the style, I don't know yet. I think we might try something maybe a little painterly as opposed to the line work that you saw last time. So I think that might be something a little different, and I'm not quite sure how I want to pull that off. But let's go to Photoshop so you guys can see that. So I'm going to zoom up here in the corner. So in Photoshop, I have a couple pictures here. So I have this guy, which is the kind of art museum from the side. The art museum is kind of like a big U in this courtyard. The steps, if you're looking at this, are off to the right hand side here. Pretty good shot. I like it. It's got some perspective going on, wide angle. Same thing here. It doesn't feature the main part of the building. One thing you'll notice here, in the main part of the building, there is this artwork that's kind of up top here. Let me see if I can grab a brush. Up here, you can see that there's, a recreation, whereas on the main one, there's not. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get into that detail. Remember, it's just a background image. It's covered most of the time, so it's hard to say exactly what I want to do with it. And then we just have this, which is just kind of the entrance, which I'm kind of leaning towards because, I kind of like the columns and things like that. So I think that might be a good place to start. So let's, I'm going to all copy paste that. Now this here is, I'm kind of redesigning the page for the image where it's going to go. So it will go behind this. This is what I call the relationship page. So this is where all the relationships are. I worked on that a little bit today. All right, but we want to create this. Now I already have one saved up. It's 1920 by 1080. And I'm just going to, it's a normal white background. 72 dots per inch is important because, television, that's our standard resolution. So if I zoom this at 100%, it pretty much will be about 1:1 on what my monitor here is. Now I do have like what's the XP pen, which is a direct, I can draw straight on my screen monitor. So I'll be using that today. So you'll kind of see me doing this. A lot easier to do paint work and things with this. All right, so you see here, I already pasted that building. So let's Control T, which is transform. I'm gonna hold down the Alt key, and it means it'll expand from the center. And just kind of give me this framing here, right? Like, okay, I kind of dig that, but I'm not going to trace it or anything, but I don't like how this fills in. So let's go back to this guy. We're going to copy that. And now this one, I can see, I definitely like how this one feels a lot better. So I dig that. Even the lamppost, we may keep that, we may not. So I think we're going to run with this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop the opacity on this layer, and I'm going to put a new sketch layer over top of it. And I have this this sketch pencil that I like to use that just kind of helps me just kind of draw what we're doing here. All right, and we're just going to essentially kind of figure out how we want this to look. If you shift click, dot touch, shift click while you're using the brush, it'll just draw a straight line, which is cool. All right, so I just want to get the general shape down here. And then once I kind of get this core shape, I'm gonna, then I kind of get rid of my guide, and then we kind of go from there. I just think it's good, the camera that this photo was taken already did our perspective for us, so why not kind of just take advantage of that a little bit. That line should be straight up and down. So I'll shift hold as I draw, and it'll do that. Hey John, how's it going today? We're just getting ready for our next set, which is going to be the museum. All right, so we're just going to put some verticals here. And again, this is just kind of a loose framework. I don't really want to copy this picture. It's not about being photorealistic, but I'm going to have the photo there, maybe for some light, maybe for some shading, we'll see. Maybe for some color, because it's definitely got some unique color going on here. Let's put that line in the back. Got this little roof over here. We'll just kind of sketch that in real quick. We got these trees and these bushes. All right, so this is our sketch. Now we're going to again drop our opacity down, put a new layer on top. All right, and we are going to, let's kind of block this in a little bit. So here on this drawing, I'll show you one of the cooler things. We are going to go to it's like some things there are times I learn, and then there are times I just outright forget what I've learned. So what we're doing is we're just kind of, all right. Let's see. All right. So we have our colors. So what we can do here is we can just make our color palette directly from this. So we see all these browns and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the eyedropper. I'm just going to select a couple of these beiges. Okay, and we want to get a nice light one to start with. All right, so let's kind of zoom in here. All right, and then we're going to come over here and add swatch. All right, and we will call it B1. All right, and you can drag swatches around and move them. You can make folders and all that if we want. So let's call this Art Museum. All right, and then we can drag this into the Art Museum. See, just like that. And then anytime we need it, we got it. So we'll select that. Now let's go over here. We'll select something slightly darker. We'll add it in there as well. So I'm just using the color picker and just adding a few colors. I kind of want a dark, a mid, and a light tone. I can kind of get all the other colors, but taking them from the picture means that they work, right? So that's kind of a big key for me. Is like if you take it from real life, then you know the colors work together already. All right, so we have this is kind of our picture here. We have our sketch. So let's, so this will be our reference. You know what, there's nothing, if you got to use a reference, you got to use a reference, okay? There's nothing wrong with it, especially for something that's not like a complete original piece of art. Don't feel locked in to have to always create something completely from scratch. Photos are great because photos generally have everything kind of figured out that maybe give you some good ideas. Like for instance here, like if we look at this picture, we can see the perspective lines. Now last week we spent a lot of time with that, right? But we can see here where they're disappearing to, and it's a distant 2-point perspective, right? Actually it's 3 because we also have a lower perspective. The distant disappearing perspective point is up very high, which is why, for instance, these lines are running on an angle. So the disappearing point is way, way, way up high, which could be expected. But then we also have like this guy here, right? Like this one is disappearing all the way out there. So if we take that, you can kind of see how that side of the building's disappearing all the way out that side. So, you know, if you use a reference, completely cool. But understand what's happening to kind of make it, you know, work. And I think that that's important. Now, we are going to grab the polygonal lasso tool. So there's 2 lasso tools. There's this one you draw from point to point and you can make shapes, okay? Or there's this is just the normal lasso, which is you can just draw any old shape. That's a good, like if you got to trace things, and whenever you pick up, it'll just snap back to the last point. All right, so let's, we want our polygonal because what we're going to do is we're going to kind of block this in a little bit. So we're going to go, we're on our new layer here. We're going to just kind of use our sketch as a guideline. So this was all, what was this? This was kind of like that gray. So we actually will use like a gray here. And I'm just going to fill it in, right? So we're just going to do that. Actually, I should have cut that corner. So let's take a shift. Oops. Let's grab our, come on, knock it off. All right, so lasso. I forgot about these little guys down here, eh? Now if I hold the shift key while I'm doing this, it will add to my selection. All right, now we do a G, and then we're going to, remember, shift backspace, we'll fill it with our foreground color, okay? Now, all right, let's fill it. All right, we need to make our background paper white again. Sorry about that. All right, so we have our kind of our land area. Continuing on with the lasso. Now, I'm going to work in 2 distinct layers, maybe 3. One will be the foreground, which is going to be this gray area. Let me, we'll work on that one. We're going to add a layer. This is going to be the building. All right, we'll work on this one next, and then the next one obviously will be behind that, and that'll be the sky, right? So let's look at our reference again. So we kind of have all this kind of light brown here. So we'll just kind of start laying down some big old brown spots. All right, so still have our lasso. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to block this whole thing in. Just clicking point to point. All right, shift backspace. Oh, I got to get my color right. Duh. Shift backspace. And then that's kind of our base color that we're working with. Let's put our sketch kind of over top just so we can see it. Our reference photo, kind of see that and how it's there. Now, if I want to make this lighter, if I go here to color and I just drag this down, let's see, let's select this whole layer. See how that kind of makes it a little lighter, which I think is a better shade to start. Easier to start with the lighter color and then shade back than it is to come the other direction, in my opinion. All right. So let's define some of these shapes. So we're gonna continue working on the building layer. Let's go grab the next darker one. We're gonna grab my brush. Now this brush is really big and really streaky, not something I want to use for this. Let's see, that's also a 200 pixel brush. So I want something that's going to be a little smaller. Let's see, we could just use like a normal brush here. This is what's called a gouache. It's like a cube brush. We'll just kind of drop it down, and you can see here how it kind of has that kind of pastel-y kind of look to it that we like. Now, ready for a pro tip? See this building layer here? If I take away the foreground, this is the building layer. Now, I don't want to spill over the edge of the building layer, and the easiest way to do that is to create a layer that's going to be nested with it. So if I do Control-Shift-N for new layer, so the previous layer will be a clipping mask. So this is really cool because now, see this layer 1 here? Whenever I paint on that, it will never go outside the layer that's below it that it's linked to. So this is going to be a great way to kind of, oh, well, how do we keep that, you know, how do we keep the layers distinct? All right. Now we can see here that this area behind this is darker. Okay, that's behind the columns. So let's define our columns a little bit. So we're just going to make that a little darker. So we'll just kind of paint. Now I can also do this. I can do our point to point. All right, and do a shift backspace and then fill that in with the darker stuff. Okay, grab another one. And that's totally cool. And what we're doing is we're just trying to create some tone. You know, the only thing that we can really create here is depth. Okay, so by doing this, I'm hoping to kind of get some of that. All right, so now let's talk about these columns. So how many columns are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and they're Grecos. So let's actually, we can pull that up. All right, we're going to keep working behind it. That way we got to kind of get them in place. So let's grab the lasso tool. And we're just going to fill in these columns. All right. Now, if I shift hold, it will allow me to just kind of keep making these. So that's all I'm doing. Rather than do each one individually, I can do all of them. There are some great people out there doing stuff that's a lot better and a lot more detailed than this. Now, interesting thing here, while this is holding, I can grab my paintbrush, select this area. Now if you notice here, I'm only going to paint within this zone. So it kind of works like a little bit of a clipping mask. But I don't like this brush. I think I want something that's going to be a lot softer. So this guy here, this is more like a watercolor kind of brush. We'll just kind of stripe these poles. Again, I'm not trying to be super detailed. This is going to be covered. All right. So you can kind of see there how it's kind of working now. All right. And then let's just grab this color. We'll come across the top, give it some distinction. And then we're just going to shrink this down and kind of give that corbel look. That's fine. All right. So I deselect to get rid of that. All right. So how we looking there? I like this. I like this. So again, I'm not going for anything crazy painty here. I'm just trying to be, something different. All right, let's grab that beige. You can see this brush here is really light. So let's lasso this, and we're going to kind of we'll create a step. All right, just like that. And then what we can do is just copy, Control V, paste. Then we got another one. Shift. You can do the same thing here if you just shift click. All right, see that? Just kind of getting some steps if we want them there. We don't. It wasn't in the original. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm thinking of the other one. It happens. But you can see here that it's got windows underneath, right? So, how are we going to represent them? We'll make this face a little lighter. All right. And then let's draw this down here. And we'll take this back to that dark color that we liked. There we go. All right, now for the windows, I'm going to grab that dark one. Let's go back to our brush. All right, and then we can just kind of do this. I mean, we don't have to draw the entire window, but we can just kind of sketch it in. Note that it's going to follow the perspective of the row that's below it. So, we're going to keep it moving that way. If I need to fix it, I can shift, or I'm sorry, you can erase it, but erasing, the problem is the way we're working with what's called destructive. So I'm working straight on this painting, which means I'm painting on top of painting. I could very easily do this with layers, but I'll be honest with you. I think it's I think it helps make it feel like I'm doing a little more artwork if I keep it together. Right, just like that. All right, so then, it doesn't look like it, but as we zoom out, you can start to see what's happening there. Cool, cool. Hey, Gil, how's it going? Aren't you playing games right now? Shouldn't you be playing games? All right. All right, so we have our roof here. So our roof, there's a shade area here underneath both sides. All right, so look at our drawing, kind of see that it's got this. It's got this kind of, what do they call it? Corbels? Is that what it is? Across here. And I'm just giving like little strokes to kind of give it the impression. Let's actually, what we'll do is we'll just kind of create some shapes from this. I'm not trying to, replicate this in any way. So yeah, it's just now when I take that away, it just kind of gives it the impression, right? The nice thing about this pen is the harder I push, the more we get. All 'All right. 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 'All I can always alt click and then dot, and that's going to help me out with the it's going to allow me to put, extra things here. So what's behind this? All right, that's a good question. So you can just see there's some dark windows back there, right? So what we'll do is we'll just kind of paint some windows in here. Let's see. And then this might be another good case to use the lasso tool. So let's do that. Because the lasso tool allows me to keep a nice clean edge, right, where the brush tool doesn't. So boom, boom. It's funny how many artists I see who actually paint with the lasso tool. It's kind of impressive. All right. But it makes sense because, art's based on shapes and getting those shapes to align, right? All right, so I think that's good. Now we can, let's come back in. We're going to do one last thing here. We're going to go back to our brush. We're going to grab this color, and I just want to make it a little darker. So I'm going to slide up my black, and we're just going to kind of put some circles at the top here and a little texture in between. All right, and what this will do is this is going to kind of help us out with those finials and the corbels that kind of exist around these columns here. All right, and then I'm going to shrink my brush down with the left bracket. I'm going to select an even darker color, and I'm just going to kind of give them a little shape. Just kind of come in the sides. Just kind of define them a little bit. Just giving them a little shadow. It doesn't look like much. It's really takes some getting used to seeing how the zoom works and everything, but see, now you kind of get the idea of what's going on here. Now I can take that same color and we can come up here and we can kind of just define some of the edges of this artwork up here. Just giving it some harder edges with a darker color. Again, I'm not trying to reproduce what this scene is up here. And I suppose I should go look and see what the scenes are actually on top of the art museum. All right. Make my bigger brush. Let's get this color, and then we're just gonna kind of end that. So I'm actually painting with the this beige back here. Cool. See that? All right. So let's see. So this side of the building here, we're gonna make that like even darker. So we're gonna go down to the building layer, and we are going to wand select the whole thing. And then I'm going to come in here and using the lasso tool, holding the Alt key, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff on the left, right? So let's get rid of all of that. All right, now, so I just have this one little section here. And then we're just going to fill it with the dark brown color that we have. So, all right, and that's fine because we just want that to kind of be off to the side. All right, there's our foreground. Like, I don't really care if that's defined or not. And even this darker color up here, let's kind of get rid of some of that. We'll darken it just by sketching a slightly darker color over top. All right, cool. So let's work on the, want to work on the other face? Let's work on the other face. Okay, so we got this face over here. That's a good reference to have because that's going to give us our colors that we need to use on the other one. Let's assume that the sun is behind. So both of these are getting equal light. That will make our life a little easier. Stop lasso tool. All right, so let's pull our sketch back up. Now we can kind of see this building. So let's do the same thing we did on the other building. Let's kind of get its face down. All right, we're going to go select that darker color. All right, so I'm going to put on G, which is my paint bucket, alt click, just so I get the exact same color. And then we are going to, on this same layer, we're going to shift backspace to fill. Have I told you how much I love shift backspace? I love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, now we can kind of see here that we want to make these lighter shapes. We also need to kind of come up with that ground. So where is that? So like there's our steps. So just gonna quickly fill some steps in here. All right, let's grab our lighter color. So there you can see, well, we need something a little lighter than that so they stand out. There we go. And we can kind of detail them in a minute, but I want to get the base for my columns. So again, the picture did all the work, right? So let's, we'll let it. All right, so then we will grab that, this lighter taupey color. All right. There we go. So then now we have that. And then we can kind of make, we can just kind of make this hollow here. And this one we'll grab the nice dark color and throw that in, because that was kind of the background on the other one. All right. So let's get rid of our drawing there. Yeah, I dig that. I dig that. So let's see. These blue banners, I don't think we're going to include them. But what we'll do is we'll kind of include some big windows and doors and things like that in there. So we have this dark area here. We're going to do the doors and things first this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of draw a big box here with my lasso tool. Now that's kind of, I can see that that's proportional. Now I'm going to use that minus key and I'm just going to kind of cut out just some generic boxes, right? Because there's two windows on the sides. Then there's kind of that entryway in the center. And maybe that's, that's got that one of those transoms above the doorway. So we'll do that. Maybe the doorway actually comes down. So we'll take this and we'll actually plus by holding the control key. All right, and that kind of is giving us that depth. Now, let's select the eyedropper tool. We're going to grab this beige from over here and we're going to fill that. Boom. So now we have this background, kind of what's going on. Now we're going to do the columns first. Because remember last time we did the columns first, then we had to work the doors in. Yeah, it's too much work. So now let's just kind of lightly sketch our columns here. So we're going to go down. All right. And then if I shift select here, remember that will allow me to just kind of draw all of these columns at one time. All right. Exciting, right? I mean, when I first tried to paint with Photoshop, I just started going nuts with brush and brush and brush. And then I realized that comes last. The brush gives the texture at the very end, and if you try to force it too early, you're going to wind up with a very muddy painting. But by building shapes like this, you get a much more natural result. All right, so let's go get our fill color again. We're going to get our eyedropper. All right, we'll get rid of our reference. All right, so there we go. So there's our columns. Now you can kind of see the multi-layers we're starting to get. Now let's see. So we want to start, let me try this again. Now that we have our shapes, now we want to start adding some dimension and some shadows. So let's look at our steps first, right? We can get rid of our sketch lines here. So our steps are down here. Now the fronts and the tops are going to be different, right? So let's see what they look like. If we take this front here, and let's say we make that a shade. So right now it's a really light color. Let's darken that up just a little, right? Just like that. Okay, I don't want it fully dark. The other cool thing about the Fiasco stuff is it's kind of meant to look like almost paper cut. So we're kind of also staying in theme working this way. So there we go. So then now that kind of shows our steps. All right, a little bit. Now let's come over here and we're gonna smooth up this edge here. All right, and then let's grab that color. There we go. Just kind of cleans it up a little bit. We still have our corbels to go in, so let's start at the top and let's look over here at what that looks like, right? So we got this kind of lighter band in here. So let's grab that color and let's bring it back here. And that's actually what this band is here. So we'll fill the whole zone first. All right, so I kind of see how that's working now. And then we have the darker color that we will brush. All right, so now we can start edging that. So now we have this kind of the corbel work here that came across. Just doing little slashes to give it that texture. All right. All right, and then we have those lines that are down here. Now if I shift click with this brush, you can kind of see how it's kind of designed to taper off because its settings are kind of designed to be a little harder edge than the other stuff. So that's what's going on there. Maybe the roof back here is, this is a little darker. So let's just kind of come in here. We'll just kind of shade the top. All right, I want to do anything I want to do behind the columns. I want to do now. Because the columns, when I get to work on them, should cover that up. All right. Now that's one thing I did last time that I'm not going to get to do this time. All right. Now we're going to grab the smudge tool. I love the smudge tool. So the smudge tool, well, it's a little large of a smudge tool. It's just going to kind of, we're just going to see how it just kind of softens that up a little bit. Just kind of yoink. All right. All right, so now we have our columns. So we're going to select all of our columns. So I just got a wand and I just did a selection on that color. It's also another thing, if you're working with solid colors, it gives you that ability to actually select very easily because you don't have a lot of disparity. All right, and I'm just gonna just lightly come down. I'm barely pushing on this pen here. All right, and I just want to just very faintly draw on that back. All right, then I'm going to come in with a hard line right down the right edge, right at the end. And it's just clipping. You can just see here where the center point of my brush is actually out to the side. All right. All right, so if we, before the marching ants go, I'm going to grab this light beige and we're just going to fix where I kind of splashed over a little bit. That's fine. All right, see, so now we got some slightly rounded columns. Now you can see up here, see our little smoothness here. Not loving that, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab our brush. We're just going to just clean up that edge. Yeah, I don't know if I'm happy with that smudge back there, but I get what it's trying to do. And I'm happy about that, but I can get rid of it if I don't like it. I mean, it's trying to create a shadow back there, but I'm not thrilled with the result I'm getting. So, you know what we're actually going to do? We're actually going to cut it out. Right? Sometimes I really like the smudging for something that's trying to be very painterly, but this one is not really going that direction. It's trying to be a little more like paper cutty and graphical, which I'm happy with. That's what I like, but the smudge tool doesn't really lend itself to that very well. And hey, you know what? This is why you tune in. When you watch other people's videos, you know, you see the perfect end result. You don't see like how many times they back up or take back something or say, you know what, that's not what I want to do. You know, I've seen artists, and there's a couple good ones out there who will spend hours on like certain areas and then turn around and say, you know what, I overworked it. That's not what I want to do. All right. See, if we zoom out, see, I'm happy with that, right? Starting to get that texture and everything. I'm not trying to go too crazy with that. But now let's go do those corbels at the top. All right. Also, I want to kind of shade up here. With the darker color, because remember, this is actually we kind of want to. I want to soften this a little bit, and frankly, it's going to be a little lighter. We can also take the color and lighten it just a little bit towards maybe this side here, catching a little more of the light, right? We're going to come back and put a roof on this at the end, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, let's get our brown color. Let's get a really dark brown color, and then let's make it a little darker, because now we're going to come back in and we're going to remember how we darkened those corbels up last time. This is our shade. We're just going to kind of put some nice, really hope it's corbels. I forget what it's called. All right, but it just kind of helps define that. All right, this is also our dark color that we're going to use for the tops of the column, so I'm going to save that. All right, now it's let's come back in and let's do this. Whoa, too dark, Chris, too dark. All right. All right. And that's too light. There we go. We'll probably come along and fix this bottom line here when we're done. All right, now let's go back. Let's grab that super dark brown. Let's make our brush smaller so we can kind of define the edges here. There we go. All right, now this bottom step, we're going to grab our lasso tool with L. We're going to grab that step, grab our light color, boom, fill it in. Oh, look at that. It's like it never happened. All right. And then we're going to continue this up top here. And this just kind of helps set it off from the other side. So I didn't tell you who's going to be on Fiasco this week. I'm kind of excited. This is a bit of a coup. So we have a pretty awesome crew. Now I want to make sure I don't forget everybody. So let me bring it up here. All right. So why, when you have too many Twitter accounts, you can have way too many. All right, so here we go. So we are going to have, it's going to be 5 guests. We have Paula Deming. We're going to have Mandy Hutchinson, which is going to be just, I think those two together are going to be super awesome. Ruel Gaviola is going to be on as well. Joe Sandow is going to be on. Come on, tell me how awesome that is. And also Chaz Marler, because come on, we need to have some comic relief. So I think that is just going to be it's going to be a stellar show. I'm super excited to be writing that. And I always give them several play sets of Fiasco to choose from so that they can kind of pick one I think that resonates with them, right? And they chose this one. They chose the museum, so I'm curious to see. But then again, I thought the zoo was going to be a hot mess, and while it was a hot mess in the best of ways, right? The best of ways. Now this area is a little dark. I think it needs a little extra love. So we're just going to kind of come in here with our brush a little bit bigger, and we're just going to kind of give it some texture, okay? Because it should have some texture in it. It's not just a solid. So we're just going to give it a little bit of a gradient and just kind of soften it up. All right. So there we go. So we're going to do the same treatment over here on this left side of the building. So let's grab the entire building. And how I do that is on the layer, I hold down Control and I click the layer, and then it makes a selection from that layer. Okay. It doesn't necessarily select that layer, because whatever layer you're on, it'll select that shape. So it's pretty cool. Now over here, remember, we're going to grab our lasso, we're going to hold Alt, and we're just going to kind of skim down this edge. And then we're going to select all the other stuff. And what that gets rid of all of it. We're going to select that dark brown and then backspace to kind of select that. Now, while this is selected, let's go select our brown. Let's get something a little darker, get our brush, and then we'll just kind of lightly. All right, so we can just kind of give it a little texture, just kind of, it's only going to let me paint within the selection, all right, which is kind of cool. I'm really touching very, 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 very lightly with the brush here. If I push hard, see how it gets really dark and it looks like I graffitied on the side. All right, now let's be honest, the building doesn't actually do that out the side, and that's fine. Let's keep that selected. We're going to grab our smudge tool. Now you can just kind of see how the smudge will just soften that. All right, so we're just going to, all right. Now it's also pulling in things from alongside. So if I pull this lighter color over, it's gonna bring it in. But I want that edge. Right now it looks like my columns are kind of boom. Hey, we never selected that column. Look at that. So let's go fix that real quick. Let's grab our brush. We'll grab our dark chocolate. Dark chocolate. All right, and we'll kind of do that. Now we'll build our corbels real quick. So that was this, and then it was a little darker. Smaller brush. See, by having a palette that I can constantly refer to, if I do something like this, it's very easy to go back in and just select the colors and then recreate what I did. Otherwise, you run the risk of having all kinds of color action going on your board, and that's just not good. You want to have a clearly defined palette. All right. Especially if you're doing something that's very, very, very graphical, like this guy is looking, right? All right, so do I need to go into complete detail in this center area? Not really, not really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer. So I'm going to Control-Shift-N, and it's going to be a clipping mask layer, but it's going to be behind what we just did. So let me select a red here and show you. So see this? See how it's like, it's back there, but the buildings we just drew are in front of it. So the clipping mask will stay within the boundaries we've set, but it's going to be behind. And this is really where Photoshop gets powerful. It's when you do these layers, right? It's just one of those things. Now, we need a really, really, really dark red. Before we do that, let's define our roof. So I'm going to grab a really, really, really dark red. All right, now this layer here is just going to be a new layer above because it will actually go outside of the actual building. So that's fine. So we're going to grab this kind of dark reddy brown. All right, and we're just going to, it's kind of like give it like a little terracotta-esque roof. And I want to do this because I need to define, this corner needs definition before we can do the building in the back, I think. All right. Now the shape of your strokes, these little strokes are looking like this. It's kind of hard to see, but even if we do regular artwork with pen and paper, those details are important. All right. Because they kind of help give shape to an object. So it kind of helps draw that in. All right. All right, and we're just going to go under it with that dark browny red. And that's going to kind of make it look like it's overhanging a little bit. All right, how's that look? That looks good. I like that. All right. So let's draw that browny red in here first. And we're going to do this with a lasso. Sometimes you do that, right? You figure something out. You're like, ooh, I like how that looks. And then you come back in and you build it backwards. So that's what we're doing here. So we're going to put that dark red down first. And then when we come through with the tiles, we're going to turn our flow up a little bit. Now we can do it right over it. All right, and then that gives us an opportunity to kind of soften it. Now, the other reason I did this on a whole separate layer is it gives me the ability to tweak the layer itself. Like if I feel this red is too bright or it's just not working, maybe it needs to be blurred, I can affect that entire layer, no problem. You know, I can do it all in one shot now. Just want to strengthen this line up a little bit on this side now that I see the other side. Nothing too crazy. All right. Now, if I watch what I'm saying, like right here, if I just drop that opacity a little bit, see how it gets, softens it up. It's still there. It's still red, but it's just kind of a little lighter. I could also throw a curve layer right on top of it. Or I could do some brightness and contrast if you want to do that over layers. So that's always a cool trick to be able to do that stuff. But usually I just tend to find the opacity or the mode. Like maybe I want to do it like with one of these other it's like this hue, like usually like a color burn or a multiply. Multiply is great for shadows. Darken. I like the darken because it kind of takes out some of that brightness of the red. So we'll leave it there. All right, so now we just need to go, let's go back to our layer. So this is our, this is the column buildings. This layer here is going to be our back building. All right, so let's go there. So we have all this. So let's make a straight line. Now if I fill this, right, with, see how it fills the whole area? Isn't that cool? All right, but we're gonna make it a little lighter because I don't want it necessarily competing. I'm also gonna drop the saturation. I don't want it to be quite so red. There, now that color I like. So let's put that back. Control D to deselect. All right, and then we're going to leave this one kind of this light beigey color because now that's really not anywhere, and it kind of defines that. So now all we need to do is let us grab our brush. And what does our picture tell us? Our picture just shows a bunch of windows, maybe some trees. So hey, we can do some trees. All right, so we're gonna throw a new layer in here, and we'll do some trees, and then we're closing in on the end. What I like here is I like these, there's some cloud brushes that I have that I really enjoy for trees. But we're going to grab a really dark green here. See how they just kind of, they work really well for kind of some trees and some shrubbery. Just, all right, and just kind of just pop them in there. All right, and then there's actually some trees over here on the left, but we'll get to them in a minute. Now let's go down and let's grab something that's a little lighter. Lay down your base color, get there first, and then just kind of layer up the color a little bit. All right, and then once you have that, we're going to grab, you can either go one of two directions. We're going to go with really with highlights, or we can go really with shadow, right? So we kind of have our shadows already. So let's go work with the highlights. So I'm just going to grab this little brush here. We're just going to just do that, and then we just take a little smudge. There we go. We got a bush. All right. And just all I'm doing is I'm kind of laying down paint that the smudge will grab. All right, and then we'll kind of All right, this is going to be how we're going to get that dimension and that shape. All right, let's go grab our smudge. And we'll just kind of soften the bottom. It's kind of think of it as like using your finger. Look at that. Come on. It's real kind of bushes there. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. All right. Now, that was we'll call that our tree layer. So now we'll go back to let's go back. My favorite brushes. Oh, let's see, what brush were we using? We were using that guy. We're using him on a much, much smaller scale. All right, now anytime I paint back here, we're just going to get that. Now I can do, maybe we just do some windows. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do let's see, what do we got? So let's do that. Let's come across here. We'll just knock out some windows real quick. We'll do our control. We'll do some pluses. Or shift, sorry. All right. Now, grab our last. So now we're going to hold the Alt key, right? And what does this do? This gets rid of selection. So see, boom. I'm not going to go too crazy with detail, man. Look, there's a lot of work we could do here. We could go up there. We could grab that corbel work up there. You know, we could certainly do all of that, but I don't think the drawing is going to benefit from it. Because remember, it's going to be pretty hidden behind stuff. A lot of what we're doing is hidden. But I think you'll get the idea of what it is, right? I think you'll get the idea that it's a museum, it's a courtyard. I still want to do something with this, the courtyard, because I love all this texture down here. All right. Let's grab that dark color that we had before. All right, and then let's hide our reference. They can kind of see that, right? That works. All right. Now the nice thing is this is still on a separate layer, so if we want to clean this up, we totally can. All right, but let's get on the. Oh, I see what I did. So we're going to Z out. I was on the tree layer. That's bad. All right, now we're going to do it on the back build layer. So let's Control Shift Backspace. Now it's behind the trees. Now I can clean up anything I want to clean up. I didn't clean up the left edge, so we'll do that real quick. All right, so that's pretty cool. Let's do the other side real quick while we have it. I mean, the tree kind of blocks a lot of it. That's fine. Totes fine. Totes fine. All right, and we're gonna do the good old Alt trick here. All right, so if we zoom out, we get rid of that. So see that? So now all we're going to do is let's, so we will put some of that, kind of that grading in the top. We're definitely going to add that. So let's grab a dark brush. I don't need it that big. We're going to go down to about that big, yeah. All right, and this is going to come from here to here. All right, so that wasn't the brush I had, so I had that guy. Ah, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. Sometimes I get confused as to what brush I'm using because, my goodness, man, do you use a lot of brushes? But, you know, just, I can't tell you what brush to use. Okay, let's be honest here. Because everybody's style and tools. Let's, you know, like I'm using a pressure pen. You know, you might not have that ability to do that. So if you don't have that ability, then you know you use the tools that are best for you. What I want to do, what I'm doing right now, is I just want to define this corbel here, this edge of the of that a little bit better. All right, and then I'm just going to come up here. Now again, I could just, maybe that's what I should do, is just lasso that. Yeah, I think that's right. All right, now we're going to come through with the brush and we're just going to just do some tappy textures. Just to kind of give it some texture. All right, so over here, we're going to do the same thing. Just easier to recreate it top down now that I've kind of defined it. Remember, it gets a little bigger over here. All right. Now I need to put the highlight in, so we're just gonna. The highlight needs to be this color though, right? So we're gonna select that color. Hey, where'd you go? There you go. We're gonna select that color and fill it with that one, because if we don't want it to be the too light one. All right. And then we're going to select that. Let's try that again. All right. We're going to get that dark color. We're just going to... All right, and then maybe there's just like a little... There's some little texture above the windows, so we'll just kind of... We'll just lightly fill that in. I'm not going to... Again, I'm not going crazy. I just... All right. All right, and then we just kind of have, what, two things left? We just have our sky and our kind of courtyard here that we're just going to knock out real quick. Then we're going to call this done. I don't mind spending an hour doing a background. I think it's kind of fun. And it's giving me more skills, better skills as I go through. You know, I'm not trying to be crazy, and I'm sure there's artists out there who are absolutely way, way better. And that's totally cool. All right, so let's go down to our foreground. All right, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a new masking layer. And now we're just going to run this all the way off, which looks like I need to be just at like 60%. There we go. All right, so let's go down here, and all I'm going to do is keep selecting the wrong thing. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create kind of like a checkerboard down here. I'm not going to try and fill it in with this crazy texture that they have, like this nice herringbone around the outside. I mean, it's very cool, but I think it's beyond necessary for us. So we're going to do this. All right. And then we're going to come up here. And I'm just trying, now I'm actually having to just guess. All right. Now the color we put in here is this gray. So we want to do a darker one. So let's see where we are. Let's eye drop that guy. And we're just going to go a little darker. And then let's fill it in. Cool. All right, digging that. That's kind of looking like what we thought. Turn everything back on. All right, now what we're going to do is we are going to cut across that with some straights here. All right, and what we're going to do with these is, oops, is we are just going to just kind of make it look like it's so these are just really big triangles. All right, we'll do one down here too. All right, let's get rid of everything again so I can actually see my colors. Now we're going to select this. We're going to select our eyeball. Going to select that gray again, and now we're going to fill that in. See, it kind of gives us that checkerboard. Boom. So now we get that look that we kind of had in the other one, but it's a little easier now. And you can kind of see here like it's grass and cobblestones. So, you know, we can, let's see, let's just choose to, we're going to select a marquee across the back here. And what we're going to do is we are just going to put in a even lighter gray. Okay, just on that side. All right, just to kind of give us the grounding in the bottom. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to try and put in the light post or anything like that. I kind of feel this is doing what I needed to do. The sky in the background. So this actually goes in the foreground. So this here is our foreground. That's our roof. So we can put the building together. We can put the foreground together. I'm doing this for your benefit. I start off really good, and then my labeling gets very, 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 very bad. And then this is just going to be our sky. All right. Now, what is our sky? Our sky has we can grab like, ooh, look at that. It's got some nice colors to it. So, I mean, I could theoretically just chop it and do that. The other thing is, do I want to include these little things up here that are kind of, I kind of dig them actually. And I think we can do that. That's just a really light green. We could knock that out. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go select the color though. Let's take that. It's kind of like a verdigris, right? It looks like it's, yeah, that'll work. So let's go put that on real quick. So we're gonna just come in here with a really small brush, and we're just gonna and I'm not trying to be anything special here. I'm just trying to let you know, hey, there's some filigrees up there. Like I'm not, if you can tell it's a horse, more power to you, or Pegasus in this case, or a winged something. All right, so that gives me some shapes, clean it up a little bit. And this is where like having a texture like 8,000 points of pressure with one of these pens helps, because I can. There you go. Oh, I dig it. All right, it kind of gives it a little. It's giving it a little something spunting. All right, let's go back to our sky. Let's go back to our picture. That's a really cool colored sky. So let's grab some colors off of that. So we are going to, let's see, let's grab this blue. We're going to make a color out of that. Let's grab this. That yellowy peach is awesome. We'll grab that. Let's grab a really dark blue as well. All right, so there we go. And I think it's like a nice light blue. Usually I only grab like a couple colors. You don't need that many. The more you use, the more likely you are to overdo it in any event. All right, now I'm going to get a big wide brush. Now this time we're going to use this guy. All right, and we're going to start light. Actually, we're going to start dark and take away. All right, so we'll just kind of put that light, put down some of that dark color. Now that's a little too much, so I'm going to drop my flow on my pen. All right, and then you can kind of see here now it's a little bit, there you go, it's letting a little of the paper through. All right, so it's darker over here, it gets lighter over there. We'll lighten it up a little. So a lot of these brushes that you see me using are what's called a stamp brush. So they kind of have, this texture that's kind of stamped in there. Okay, so when you use them, sometimes you'll hear where I'm not just dragging and swirling, right? Because see, it's doing those streaks. But again, I'm usually doing taps, or I'm doing light kind of moves. And again, I'm laying color down because I'm probably gonna smudge this. Okay, let's grab that yellow and we'll just kind of, that sunset over in this corner, that was really cool. It got redder as we went over here. So let's go back into our color. Let's lean that red a little bit more. Let's lean into that color. We'll just kind of throw that back there. Maybe we'll go just a real touch, real big punch right at the end, right there. All right, so this is our background. Now let's go grab our nice big smudge. Now I'm going to make this huge. Oh, not that big. Now you get to see just how slow my computer is when I do really big. All right, so the trick here is I'm doing like little swirlies. All right, all right, and I'm kind of just doing it slowly because, you know, depending on how awesome your computer is, this can take a little while and you want to let it catch up. Mine is not very great. My production PC would probably be a little bit better for this, but I don't have the monitor on that PC and it's not in my studio, so. But I don't mind kind of giving it this wet edged look. I really dig it actually. But what I don't like is, see this dark spot right here in this middle. This is too dark now. So we're going to actually go and we're going to add in just a little lightness right in here. And then I'm going to feather that into our warmer colors with just a little bit of that. I'll go back to our smudge. All right, and if you want more of one color in another area, pull in the light area and then drag it out. See how it just pulled that light color all the way through? So blend from one color to another color. You're not trying to mix them. You got to pull one into the other when you use the blend tool. It's the same thing you would do if you're painting. If you want to make it lighter, you would drag in white. If you want to make it darker, you would obviously drag in more of the primary. All right, I think we're done. I'm kind of happy with this. I mean, it's a little hard-edged, I'm not gonna lie, and that's totally cool. but you know, I think you know exactly what it is. This is the museum. I'm horrible about saving my work, which almost cost me the other day, because I swear we recorded a whole podcast, and then next thing you know, I'm like, my computer froze up, and I'm like, it froze up while you're exporting. I really hope you didn't crush that file. So we're going to call this the museum piece. We are going to export it as a JPEG, okay, because it's going to be the easiest thing to use. All right, we like that. We're going to put that in to my Fiasco drive. It's going to go right into the museum set so that it'll be there. And then that way when we have the show, I can just pull it right up. All right, but let's go look at what it's going to look like here. So no, we don't want to say that. So here's our core overlay. So let's grab the museum piece here. We're going to... Easiest way to do this is already saved. So if I Control-Shift-E, it squishes everything that's visible together. And I'm just going to copy that, bring it over here. We're going to put it right above the background. See? And then now you know how it's going to line up. And then you can see all these little green screen bubbles here are the individual participants and what's going on there. So now we can kind of see like, oh, hey, how does our picture look in the background? You know, I'm really kind of digging it. But you can see here, like, oh, I kind of want to extend that sky up a little bit. So I think we kind of need to shift it down and then take that sky up. So let's do that. So we're going to bring our picture back, and we're going to grab everything but the sky, and we're going to move it down. Boom, look at that. See? Not that hard, right? And then what we'll do is we'll just go in our sky, we'll grab our little smudgy finger, and we'll just kind of clean that up. All right, and now we're going to save it, and then we're going to squish it again. All copy, and let's get rid of the old one. Let's put in the new one. There we go. How's that? Huh? That's kind of cool, right? So that will be our main screen. Now, I've also set this guy up. So really quick, see these the circles here? I can turn the stroke that's on them off or on. The other thing I can do is I can change their color. So if I double click on the stroke, let's say I want to use that red that we liked. I'm going to take this little eyedropper and bang, grab the red. Now everybody's individual picture will be covered by the red or the gray. I like the gray. We're going to do the gray, but maybe we'll darken it just a little bit. There we go. All right, now every time I do this, I get to come in here and I can set these to be the exact colors I want. Like for instance, last time I had a green screen, I had a green feature on the board and it was taking it out. So I just changed it to a blue screen and I changed all my dots to blue screen colors. And then we don't have to worry about that. So it's very easily done. The arrows are another one. Let's, if I select the whole layer up here, this is the group of all these arrows. So if I turn these off, see how the arrows just disappear? But they're light blue now, and I wasn't sure what color I wanted them. But what I can do, and I use this so much, go here under FX, pick Color Overlay, and now this little box here lets me choose any color I want, and it will overlay that exact square. Isn't that cool? All right. Now, if you're using green screen, I can't use a green, but let's say I use this really dark red, or what if I use a really bright red to kind of say, hey, these are the relationships, which I actually think kind of works. I kind of like the bright red because I think it kind of highlights them. All right. I could also stroke those. If I click on stroke here, look, I can highlight them. I can put a drop shadow on them. A little one. Hey, let's do that. Oh, I like that. But we're going to do a lot more subtle of a drop shadow. Very, very, very small. Because what that'll do is that will help just kind of make them stand out. So there we go. Just very, very, very small. And then we can soften it a little bit just to make it disappear. All right, now all those relationships are going to be a lot more obvious in the next version. The only thing is I need to figure out where to put their names. So that's going to be the next thing I need to figure out. And I'll probably do that in the next day or so because I kind of want to change how it looks a little bit. So I think their names are just going to go in little talky bubbles and then who they are. So cool. So I hope you guys learned something. Hope you had some fun today. This was an interesting one, huh? Got to do something a little painterly. You can see now why I did it and built it the way I did, because it's going to be very, very, very subtle in the background. And that's kind of what we're shooting for. I'm going to actually save this as its own file, clear, with no background. That way I can just lay it over whatever I want to do when I get there. So that's it. I hope you guys had fun. I can't believe these always last about an hour and a half. That just amazes me. But we're gonna wrap this one up. Join me Tuesday. I think Tuesday is going to actually be I'm debating between cooking or actual physical artwork, but I think it's going to be artwork because I got a commission to do a train drawing. So I think we're going to do that. And that's literally going to be a pen and ink marker or watercolor train drawing that we're going to build. So we're going to do that next. So we'll see you Tuesday around 2 o'clock. I hope you guys are all staying safe and well. And if you're watching these, I hope you're enjoying them and having some fun with them. I'm having a blast. So until next time, be safe out there. Have a good one. And thanks for watching, hanging out. Thanks, Gil. Thanks, John.